Hi, this is Laura. I'm the CEO of VMV Hypoallergenics. We're here to save the world's skin with the safest, most proven effective care on the planet. Today, I'm going to talk to you about the difference between allergic and irritant reactions. It's a little complicated, so I'm going to try to break it down as simply as possible. We do have a great blog post on vmvinskin.com about this very topic. So if you'd like more detail, or if you prefer reading your information, or you want to read it to sort of cement the understanding of it, because it is a little complicated, you can do so. vmvinskin.com, it's an easy article to find. Are all skin reactions the same? Yes, in the sense that you feel like there's something off or different with your skin. It's not behaving normally. No, in the sense that a true allergic reaction is really quite a specific thing, whereas an irritant reaction is also different. I just did a video on food and skin allergies, which delves into other types or into a few of the 4 general types of reactions that we tend to get. There are allergies and irritant reactions, which is strictly speaking, not an allergic reaction. I'll get into that just a little bit. Please remember to follow us on social media and like and comment. Definitely ask questions here. Irritant reactions, to start us off, are not true allergic reactions. They are reactions in the skin that can look like allergic reactions. So there can be redness, there can be flaking and dryness and cracking. In some severe cases, even burns and blistering. But the thing with irritant reactions, though, is it's highly dependent on how much of the thing you're exposed to and how frequently, right? There has to be a certain kind of threshold to get this reaction. And when you stop your exposure to the thing, the skin heals. When you use the thing again, you won't necessarily get a reaction to it right away. You'll have to get to the same level of frequency or quantity of exposure. Some examples of this would be babies when they're young and they're all drooly. They'll sometimes get a reaction to their own saliva just because there's so much of it coming in contact with the skin. And you'll notice that over time, when they drool less, the reaction disappears. It's no longer an issue. And then if they're older and they happen to drool, you know, something's really good, or you spittle or something, they won't get the same reaction, right? To get the same reaction as older kids or as adults, the exposure would have to be to the same amount of, you know, really intense drooling as when they were babies. Another one would be, let's say that you're using a moisturizer for years, you love it, it's fantastic. And then the more you find, let's say you travel to a really dry, cold place. And so you use the same moisturizer more and more and more and more. And that increase in use, it starts to elicit more redness, drying, flaking, and things like that. You stop using the moisturizer, you wait a few months, your skin's back to normal, you start the moisturizer again in the normal way you used to use it before, and there's no reaction because it's not an allergic reaction. You're totally fine. But if you went back to that really cold, dry place and you started using the moisturizer more and more of it more frequently, then the reaction would recur because it's an irritant reaction. This is similar to what we see in alcohol and hand sanitizers during the pandemic. If before maybe you were using alcohol or hand sanitizer or alcohol-based hand sanitizers, I don't know, once a day, a few times a day, or only when you were outside the house and you didn't notice any kind of reaction, it was fine to use. But in the pandemic, many of us increased the use of alcohol and hand sanitizers a lot more than we used to, right? So we would use it every few minutes even, and certainly when going out and even at home. So the increase in quantity that we were exposed to and frequency of application was so significant that many of us got irritant reactions. When we stop or lessen the use of that alcohol or hand sanitizers over time, you know, a few weeks or whatever, and with proper care and the skin recovers, if you then use the same alcohol or the same hand sanitizer and notice you don't get a reaction, then it was an irritant reaction. You will need to use it as frequently, as much of it, in order to elicit the same reaction. That's an irritant reaction. Other examples, like I mentioned, can be quite severe. There are some acids and some chemicals like chlorine. If you're exposed to quite a bit of it, or just certain caustic acids, can be burns and blistering and stuff. But again, the skin can normalize. And if you're exposed to, let's say, a smaller quantity of that same thing, then you may not react to it, right? It is a strong, while a strong irritant reaction, it is still not an allergic reaction. Active ingredients for a lot of alpha hydroxy acids and keratolytics like retinoic acid, you do get an irritant reaction. So irritant reactions aren't even all bad, right? Sometimes it shows the ingredient is working, doing what it's supposed to do, which is a microscopic exfoliation of the skin. So for something like retinoic acid or glycolic acid, the initial irritant reaction could be because you're using it too quickly. And so it's too much exposure too quickly of an ingredient that's wonderful, but can be irritating. And I've done a few videos talking about this and why this is why you should go slow with active ingredients, why you need to make sure that you're using them properly, et cetera, et cetera. But that's another example of an irritant reaction. For an allergic contact dermatitis, a real skin allergy, the immune system of the body is involved. It is a true allergy. Your immune system has now been conditioned or has developed so that it recognizes something as bad and something to react to. So that while, it takes time for a skin allergy to develop, unlike IgE mediated allergies. And again, check out the difference between food and dander and skin allergies video that I posted. While it may take time for the body to develop an allergy to something, once an allergy has developed, any exposure to the thing that your immune system does not like will elicit a reaction. So again, with an irritant reaction, the concentration, the amount, the frequency of use, all that comes into play, right? So that if you use just a little of it or less of it, you may not get an irritant reaction. An allergic reaction is a true allergy, meaning it involves the immune system. I did that other video, as I mentioned, on the difference between skin, food, dander, et cetera, allergies. Those are IgE mediated allergies for the most part. Skin allergies are T cell mediated. So they're not quite the same thing. So if you prick test positive to say mango, you might actually, unless you also patch test positive for mango, be able to touch it and put it on your skin. So what happens in an irritant reaction is you use something and you're actually fine. You use too much of it, or there's too much of a concentration, or with caustic stuff, the too much is right away, right? But when you stop using it and you give the skin time to heal, if you use the same thing at a less amount or less frequently, you might not react to it. That's an irritant reaction, right? With an allergic reaction, you can use the same thing, a moisturizer, a cream, whatever, for weeks or months or years and be fine. But when your immune system, your T cells recognize something in there that it doesn't like, something is foreign or bad, and an allergy develops, when you use that again, regardless of the frequency or quantity of it, you'll elicit an allergic reaction. That's a true allergy. It involves the immune system. You need time to develop the allergy, but once that's developed, it almost doesn't matter how much of it you touch or use, you'll react. Whereas in an irritant reaction, you would need a certain threshold of exposure to elicit a reaction. I told you it's a little complicated, but that's sort of it in a nutshell. Irritant reaction, you do need a certain threshold to hit in order to develop the reaction, but with time, and if you're exposed to it again later with smaller amounts, you should be okay. If you have already developed an allergy to something, on the other hand, it doesn't matter how much you are exposed. It doesn't matter the quantity, let's say frequency of exposure. When you use it again, you'll react. Can irritant and allergic contact dermatitis coexist? And the answer is yes. An example, a great one is, again, back to alcohol and alcohol-based hand sanitizers, right? You could have in the pandemic, just because we've used them so much more than we ever did, an irritant contact dermatitis to the alcohol, which is not actually a top contact allergen, but it is an irritant. But if the alcohol or the alcohol-based hand sanitizer that you have also has allergens like fragrance and dyes, which are not uncommon, there are actually quite a bit of hand sanitizers with fragrance and alcohols with fragrance, you might be experiencing both an irritant contact dermatitis just from the increase in quantity and frequency of the use of the alcohol irritant, but the fragrance and dyes might have already elicited an allergic reaction as well. So that if you were, let's say, to switch after your skin has healed, you put Noah oil or Oils Well virgin coconut oil to help it get better, and you lessened your exposure to alcohol now that we're opening up. So be good and vaccinate and boost and all that. So when you go back and use an alcohol or alcohol-based hand sanitizer without a top contact allergen, so let's say kid gloves monolaurin gel or id monolaurin gel, you might notice you're actually okay because you're not allergic to the alcohol. You were just experiencing an irritant contact dermatitis to the alcohol, but you may now be allergic to fragrance and dyes. So they can actually coexist. But alcohol, again, is just an irritant, meaning if you don't actually use it that much, you don't use it so frequently, it's normally okay for most people. And it's not a top contact allergen. Top contact allergens are fragrance and dyes. So there, yeah, they can coexist. I want to make clear that an allergic versus an irritant reaction can be confusing even for experts. So ideally, if you have a reaction that's really recurring or dryness that's just not going away, go see a dermatologist and get a proper diagnosis. Even better, see a contact dermatitis specialist. Doctors in the United States tend to be members of the American Contact Dermatitis Society, which you can find at contactderm.org. In the Philippines, you have the Philippine Dermatological Society. They have a contact dermatitis group as well. And most probably in your country, if you have a dermatological society, they'll probably have a contact dermatitis subgroup as well that you can ask, or you can find a doctor who's a member of that group. So I hope that was helpful. It is a little complex. I get that. So please definitely ask your questions in the comment area. And we are really, really good about answering your questions. I'm on our customer support team, so I'll see those questions there anyway if you submit them on vmvhypoallergenics.com or vmvhypoallergenics.ph, which is also where you can buy our products. So yeah, like us on Instagram and YouTube and Facebook, or rather subscribe to our YouTube channel. And let us know what you thought. If you have any questions, if there's anything else you'd like us to touch on. Otherwise, be safe, take care of yourselves, and yeah, see you next time.